I'm working on like the chat feature of one application. Voice forget, MPG.
Okay. Chat feature for an application using WebSocket. All right. So which just to confirm, which stack are you using again?
Kotlin.
Kotlin.
Just want to say. Yeah.
All right. Are you working for any company yet?
Should I say company? You know, like company. You know, like the company. But I'm just assisting someone. Should I say I'm just assisting someone?
Okay, you're assisting someone. Cool. And how long have you been writing mobile with Kotlin?
Um, 20, should I
2023.
say? Yeah.
2023, that should be 2 years,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
24, no, not up to 2 years. 23, let's just say
Not to do it.
close to 2 years, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, what are you looking at in the next 6 months? What do you want to achieve in the next 6 months?
How? I want to do. I want to improve. Like I want to be comfortable. So how do I put this thing? Also, I think I want to be comfortable because I realize sometimes when I'm working on new stuff or something I've not like worked on before, I kind of get scared. Should I say scared? Or
Okay. So the word is confident.
yes,
Okay. Okay. All right. So I just need to be clear about that. All right. You can help me send a message on Slack that the session has started for anyone that wants to join.
that's
All right. So um, we are going to start by talking about some really, really basic concepts. But trust me, they are only basic to someone that understands them. And
yeah,
they are basic because they are the foundation of software development or building a software or engineering a software, right? So they are the foundation. And so um, it's just like you can't build a house without the foundation of the house, correct? So the
yeah,
same thing, you can't engineer a software or you can't create a software from nothing um, if you don't start first from the foundation, right? So the foundation is what we are going to start from and building it up. And based on what you said, you want to build up your confidence. So one thing about confidence you should not pay attention to is right. One thing about confidence you should pay attention to is um, building confidence as a developer is a matter of understanding, right? So building confidence as a developer is a matter of understanding. When you understand, you have confidence. So let me give an example. Um, if you are the prince, if you're the king of a village, and or let's say you're the son to a king of a village, right? And you you're not aware that if your father is not available, you're going to take the position of the king to rule the kingdom. So if you're not aware, you're still going to be acting like a normal person, right? You're still going to acting like a normal person. And I think some an analogy like that was referenced in the Bible if you're a Christian, where it says a slave, as long as he's a slave, would never know the values or the qualities of a king. Something like that. It's more of like, so long as you don't know your identity, you cannot live up to it. So when you want to build confidence as a developer, right? The only way to build confidence is through understanding. And the aspect of confidence can be channeled to so many things. So it could be channeled in your scenario where you're trying to start a new project, you're trying to um, work on something you've not done before. So let's say this guy, confidence here, we could channel it to, um, let's say, new adventures, right? Like something you've not done before. You could channel it to um, um, speech, speech, right? An example of speech now. This speech now refers to interaction, communication, right? I think that should be the right word we should use here. So that should be the right word we should use here. So you can channel it to communication. And an example of such communication is like um, an example of such communication is when you're taking an interview, right? When you're taking an interview, that's an example of the communication we are referring to here. So now this is based on your own use case where you talk about building confidence, right? And Lou said that if you want to build confidence as a developer, the only way you can do that is through understanding. Once you understand what a framework is, you're confident about it. Even if you've never done something related to it before. If you understand what JavaScript is and how it works, you become confident about it. If you understand how Python works, how the language or the syntax operate, you become confident about it. So the aspect of confidence for a developer is based on understanding. So, and we've said that you can confidence can be channeled to multiple things, right? You can channel confidence to multiple things, and one of it, based on what you've said, is adventure. Like you're starting something new, or let's say you've never worked with Google Maps before, and it's your first time working with Google Maps, and you're scared or you're panicking, kind of like you're writing code and your code is funny, it's not working as expected, all those kind of stuff, new adventures, right? So that's one area we can channel confidence to. The other one, which is communication, this applies to, say, you're interacting with someone. How confident are you with what you're saying? For instance, what I'm saying now, how confident am I in what I'm saying? Or say you're taking an interview, a technical interview. Technical interviews are a validation of two things: your level of understanding and your level of confidence, right? So that's most of what the interviewer is validating: your level of understanding. They want to know how well you understand what you say you know, right? So we can channel confidence in the aspect of communication because as a developer, you're most likely not working alone. You're working with people. So you need confidence in that aspect of communication. Okay, so we have Wale and Moses on the call. Welcome, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. So I'm trying to lay a foundation here so that we get clarity on the things we need to pay attention to, right? And the reason why this is important is because um, with what is going on in the software development space today, there is a lot of distraction. New frameworks are coming out every day, new libraries, new tools, new approach to software development, and the noisiest of them all is AI. And if you're not really grounded in the things you know, that is where they say AI is going to replace developers. So it basically referring to junior and to an extent mid-level developers. Because a junior developer in most cases, for instance, a web junior developer in most cases, what they can write is HTML and CSS and a little bit of JavaScript, which an AI tool can do 100%. So why should I hire a junior dev when I can prompt an AI or an AI assistant to do the same? So those are the people they are referring to. AI is going to replace. Now, how is it going to replace a mid-level developer? The replacement of a mid-level dev with AI is based on the preciseness of the prompt you give to the AI. That's why we have prompt engineers. So basically, people who will replace mid-level developers are prompt engineers, right? The preciseness of the prompt I'm referring to being precise. For instance, for example, I can say, tell an AI to, let's say, Claude, for instance, build a to-do app that does XYZ and make the color to be black and then upload it to my GitHub account with this username and this password. Then you like making the prompt much more precise, right? That is what is going to replace a mid-level dev because a mid-level developer is someone that has some level of detail in understanding, and we can translate that level of details to the prompt you give to an AI assistant. So if I can be very detailed with my prompting, I can use that to replace what a mid-level dev should do, right? But the except the mid-level dev is good at prompting as well. But the people that it's definitely not going to replace are senior developers. Why? Because on a senior level, it's not about writing code. It's all about decision making, trade-offs. You're deciding between React Native, Flutter, and Native. Which one should I use? Of course, you can't ask an AI tool to decide that for you because your decision is based on what you want to build. It's the same thing goes for frameworks or libraries. You're trying to decide which package should I use. Let's assume Flutter, for instance. Which state management package should I use? You can't get AI to make that decision for you because that tool is based on the products you're building. So to that extent of senior developers, it's difficult for AI to replace them because most of what they do is decision making because they are already good at coding, which is understanding the syntax of the framework or language they are working with. They are really good at that. They are really good in the aspect of design, structuring, architecture. They are good at that, which AI can help you do most of what the mid-level guys do, right? But in the aspect of decision making, writing um, clean code, you might not be able to do that for you. If you write a piece of code today and you paste it on ChatGPT and say refactor this for me, it's going to refactor it for you and give you the result. Now, if you take the result and prompt it again, refactor it even further, you realize that the next version it will give you is different from the first one it gave you, right? So with senior guys, it's difficult for AI to replace them. So now that is why we are starting by laying the foundation of understanding so we can have clarity on what we should be focusing on, right? And one of the things, based on what Sultan mentioned before you guys joined the call, is a developer needs to be confident. You need to be confident as a developer. And when I say you need to be confident as a developer, right? Um, the misconception there is you don't have to know it all, right? And this is going to bring me to this statement, right? Um, it's going to take me to this statement. Programming, right, is all about opinions. And opinion here is a key word. So programming is all about opinions. Now, why do I say so? Okay, so let's try to like go back to the early days of programming. Let's say in the early 20s, 40s, and 50s, right? When people were still writing code with embedded system languages like C sharp and the rest. Now you realize that the person who created, let's say, C sharp, for example, created it as a result of his own opinion of something else that existed. Let's use, if you're familiar with the language Kotlin, let's use Kotlin for instance. Kotlin was created from Java, right? Now, the person who created it came up with his own opinion on what he thinks the programming pattern should be like based on what he understands about Java. The same thing, the person who created Vue.js created it based on he's created it based on his opinion on what he thinks it should be from what he understands about JavaScript. The same goes for React. The same goes for your Next.js and so on and so forth, right? It was somebody's opinion. Now, let's bring it down to, I'm trying to use scenarios where we have multiple options just to make you understand that those options are people's opinion, right? When it comes to architecture, for example, we have multiple of them. We have MVVM, we have MVC, we have MVVI, a lot of them. And these are people's opinion. Someone just wake up and feels like, oh, there should be something called clean code. It should have separation of consent, blah, 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 and all those stuff. Who asked him? Is his opinion. He thinks that is how it should be, right? And people were able to buy into that opinion. He was able to get people to buy into that opinion, and it became established. So the question now is, okay, if all these things are opinions, right? In today's world where we have a lot of these opinions, now the opinions I'm referring to like options. When it comes to frameworks, we have a lot of them. Just look at mobile development, for instance. We have React Native, we have Flutter, we have Jetpack Compose, we have native Android, we have um, Swift UI, we have UI Kit. A lot of these things, right? And these are people's opinion. So the question now is, how do we now know which opinion is right? It's just like I can ask um, Sultan, what is your opinion about programming? And he's going to say something. Then I can ask Wale, what is your opinion about programming? He's going to say something different. Everybody here would say something different based on what they understand about it. I too will say my own. The point now is, how do we then know which one is right or which one we should believe? Right? Because why this is important is we have a lot of these opinions today, and it's very confusing. You don't know which one to use. Now, I can ask on the call, okay, which stack is everyone doing? Let's say Sultan might say native Android with Kotlin. Everybody will say their own. Now, if I ask a second question, okay, why did you choose Kotlin? Or why did somebody else choose Flutter? Or why did some other person choose React Native? Why? Right? Now, the reason why is now you validating your opinion on why you choose it, why that opinion of yours about it makes or is valid, or why it becomes valid, right? So if we have a lot of these opinions, right, one thing we should pay attention is, for that opinion to be valid, it needs to be backed by the standard, right? That opinion needs to be backed by the standard. And what we should pay attention now is, these standards have not changed for the past 50 years. The standards have not changed for the past 50 years. Programming has been the same as far back as the 50s. The only thing that is changing is people's opinion about it. It has been the same. Like, for example, as far back as, if you guys are aware, before now, we had very large computers, and how software was built then was using some hardcore system languages, right? And for those guys, before they could build a software, you needed to understand the hardware you're building that software for. And most of these hardwares had limited memory storage. Some devices had just 1 megabyte, some had 5 megabytes, very limited storage. So there was need for whatever they are writing, whichever languages they are writing in, to be very, very efficient and optimized. That is why some of these languages were created, C++ and the rest. They were created because the software that was going to run on them, the software they were building was going to be running on a hardware device, right? And they needed something that will work efficiently on that hardware. Like, some languages are not popularly used today, like Pascal, um, Ada, and the rest. They are not popularly used today. But those languages were created so that they were going to work efficiently on the hardware the software used in building them would run. So, whatever opinion it is, it has to be backed by the standard. So that means um, there are standards to programming that we all need to know, and these standards are the same. Whether That's why a mobile developer can lead a team of front end and back end developers, so long as he understands the standard. There are engineering managers who are mobile developers, but they are leading teams of both front end, back end, and DevOps engineers. Why? How is that possible? Because they understand the standard, and the standards are general. It doesn't. It's not regulated based on the stack. It's general. So it means I can take a look at someone's JavaScript code following the standard, and I say, no, this thing you wrote here is not supposed to be like this. Or you can take a look at a Python code and you can tell this thing is not right just because of that standard, right? So over time, we are going to be looking at some of these standards and how we can leverage on them. And this is actually what sets apart senior developers. This, because it is the very basics of what anybody should know about software development. But um, because of distractions and a lot of abstraction, right? Most people who are maybe starting their programming journey, they get to skip it. They get to skip them, and then they just move straight to start writing Java, to start writing HTML, to start writing CSS, and all those stuff. So you're going to pay attention to the standards. And one other word we mentioned here was understanding, which is what we use in building confidence, right? And it's also what sets apart senior developers from mid-level and junior, understanding. And something about understanding is it has depth. Understanding has depth, right? That is how deep or how solid is your understanding about something. For example, let's say um, who is anyone on the code that writes Flutter? Let's look at a typical example here. Anyone on the code that writes Flutter? Nobody. Okay, what about React Native? Nobody. Okay. All right, let me ask. Let's start from Cynthia. Which framework do you write with? Can you hear me? Or let me ask Moses. Which language or framework do you use? My background is noisy. Okay. Flutter. Okay. I need someone that can talk. Moses, which language or framework do you use? No response. Okay. What about Modupe? Which language or framework do you use? Flutter, Kotlin. Okay. I want someone to unmute and respond, please. If you can, if your environment is good. All right, all right, Sultan, which one? You said you use Kotlin, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm trying to elaborate on the aspect of the depth of understanding. So this we can couple this together, right? Because we don't want it to be separate. All right. So Sultan says you write Kotlin, and it's used for, let's say, native Android. All right. Now, um, based on your usage of Kotlin for Android, right? I Have you ever thought of understanding how the code you write with your the code you write in Kotlin, right? Have you ever tried to understand how the code is being translated from Kotlin down to the Android operating system? Have you ever tried to figure it out?
Um, not deeply.
Okay. All right. So why I asked that is just to tell that understanding has depth, right? The Let's say the limit to what Sultan understands about his usage of Kotlin for Android, right, has a level. There's probably a level lower than that, and there's a level higher than that. So let's go to Flutter as another use case. Um, for the person writing Flutter, have you ever thought of figuring out how widgets are being created before they are displayed on the screen, like the mechanism that happens behind the scene before you get to see it on the device? Have you ever thought of it or tried to figure it out? Moses, have you ever tried, or Cynthia, have you ever tried to figure out how widgets are created behind the scene?
Yeah, sorry. Well, so a little bit of my knowledge. I think the widgets in Flutter are automatically compared to the respective native code during probably when it's being run, when it's being compiled together.
Okay.
So the the Flutter framework
Mm-hmm.
uh, makes use of the compiler, which is so then it compiles its respective native code. So if you are working for Android, Kotlin, for iOS, Swift, Linux, Windows, and something like that.
Okay. You are 100% correct. But the thing about what you just said is there is more details to it, which is the depth, right? There is more details to it. And now we might think, well, why do I need to understand how widgets are created behind the scene? What's the point? Or why do I need to understand how um, a Kotlin or a Java code is being compiled down all the way to the operating system? What's really the point? What's my business? Well, your understanding of it will determine um, the quality of applications you can build. Applications like TikTok, applications like Threads, these applications require deep understanding of both the operating system of the device running that app and deep understanding of the language that is going to be writing the instructions for the app. Right. So we are going to one of the things you are going to talk about where you get to see how depth of understanding, right? How it goes beyond just the surface knowledge is when we talk about um, mobile architecture, right? And maybe in our next session, we might not be able to cover that today. In our next session, that's what we are going to talk about when we look at mobile architecture, right? So you're going to see how, um, say you write your code in Dart, it's or the widgets you create, how they are being translated by the Flutter compiler, how it's going to transfer that to the Android environment, then how that will be transferred again to the operating system before it's going to respond back with what needs to be displayed on the screen. And all of this happens in seconds or milliseconds. So some of the features you see on your Android or your iPhone, right? We are going to see how they actually affect the applications we build, right? So this is just to buttress. Sorry, can you mute your mic, Sultan? Just wait to do that. Okay. So this is just to buttress the importance of um, understanding, and also for us to have kind of like a glimpse of what we should be paying attention to. That's if you really want to be a senior dev, you don't want to be playing with common knowledge or information, right? We really want to be senior in both our understanding and in our communication. So with this being said, right, the next thing I want to ask is, all right, we have basically, I believe everyone on the call has at least done one project. Even if it's a Hello World app, we've at least done one project, right? And we can, if it's an app, we consider that application to be a software, because whether it's an app or a website, all of it is considered as a software, right? So the question now is, um, what really is our understanding of a software? This is basically um, like this is like some basic information, and I believe everyone here might we do um, see it as something really basic. Like what are we talking about? Why are you asking us what's a software, right? But there's something there's where I'm driving to when I ask that question. So the point is, this application building is a software, but what do we understand is a software? I want to get opinions. Anybody that can talk, if you're in a good environment, you want to unmute yourself and talk. What's your opinion, or what do you understand is a software really? Because the applications we are building is a software, but the question is, what do we understand it is? Anybody?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I would say software is just something you can call like a set of instructions, that you want um, an hardware to follow. Sort of. So I just want just a set of things you want the computer to do. So they are written because there are different type of softwares and they are written like differently. So the computer understands like different set of instructions as well. Different has different ways to follow instructions. So yeah, just set of instructions to tell something how to do it, something like that.
Okay. So you're correct. No doubt about it. All right. So From what you said, one of the things I'm going to highlight from your definition is um, a set of instructions. That's one. And the second one is an objective, which is um, what it's what it is supposed to do, right? These two things, a set of instruction to accomplish something. All right. So if a software is a set of instructions, right? There's something hidden inside of this statement, a set of instruction. There's something hidden inside of it, which is um, before I say it, right, I want us to first of all say it like this. If we have a set of instruction, right, one thing we want to do is we want to know the order of those instructions. Is it going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, or is it going to be 4, 3, 2, 1, or is it going to be 1, 4, 3, 2, or is it going to be scattered? Right? We want to know the order of those instructions, right? So the word that is hidden inside of this set of instruction now is structure, right? So that's the word hidden inside of set of instruction, which is the structure. And now I'm trying to connect the dot here. So we see that the definition we know about a software, if we pay close attention to it, we are going to see how deep it is. And most of the things we have been doing, it's all coming out of it. That's why I said from the beginning the importance of understanding and how um, understanding. I talked about understanding, talked about opinions, how opinions are validated by standards, right? We'll see how our definition of software becomes the standard of how we build software. So now, set of instruction, right? Um, Inside of it, we have structure because we want to organize how these instructions are going to um, be carried out, right? Now, inside of instruction, there is still something else. I sorry, inside of structure, there is still something else related to the software we want to build, right? And that thing, which is something you must, or a word you most have come across, is architecture. So we are beginning to see the connection between it. So it starts from set of instruction to the structure to the architecture. And if we narrow it down again, down from the let me explain this. So what it is supposed, I might need to maybe stop the call at some point and generate another link that is unlimited. All right. So if we narrow down this architecture, right, there is something we are going to bring out of it, which is what? The component. What makes up that architecture? it brings out the components, right? So now this is what separates levels of developers: junior, mid-level, senior. The junior guys just know about the instructions. For instance, they could write a piece of code which is just an instruction to do something. That's what they know, how to write instructions. Now, the mid-level guy has gone a little bit further to understand the structure. Oh, I think I need to create different folders. There's a folder for login, there's a folder for sign up, they start structuring things. Oh, I need to create a function to group this instruction into one. I need to create a class to group these instructions into one. The mid-level guy starts doing some level of structuring. Then the senior guy now goes a little bit further and says, okay, um, I want to come up with a design that is going to guide how this software would be built. I want to create a design to guide how this software will be built. So he now start creating components. Oh, this is going to be for network, anything that has to do with network calls. This is going to be for anything that has to do with user interface. This is going to be for anything that has to do with data manipulation. You know, that is where they start talking about um, architectures, MVVM, and so on. That is where they start talking about clean code. That is where they start talking about um, separation of consent. All of those stuff, they start taking them into consideration, right? So you see the priorities of the different levels of developers. Now, the junior guy doesn't really understand what is um, architecture, or if there's anything called components of an architecture. They don't understand. Why? Because they are only focused on writing those instructions. Because for the most part, when they write the instruction, they get to see results. If I create a widget, I get to see that on the screen. Or if I write a piece of JavaScript code, it produces something. That is the priority for them, seeing results of whatever instruction they are given. They don't really, or they don't understand that this instruction has to be structured, or this instruction needs to have a design. Now, the reason why the senior guy is going further to um, look at architecture, components, and all of that, right? The reason for that is because, let's say, we have um, the architecture here, right? And we have the components here. Now, the reason why the senior guy is going to, or is paying attention to, or is going deeper into this, um, is going deeper to this extent, is because they understand that a software has one tendency, and the tendency is going to um, evolve. It has a tendency to evolve in the aspect of either you're going to change something later in the future, either you're removing something or you're adding something. They understand that this thing is going to evolve in the future. And the reason for narrowing down their structure deeper is because they want to know where this change is going to come from. So when they narrow down the architecture to components, they know, okay, if we need to make a change in the future, or the software needs to evolve in the future, we want to know which components, where is that change going to happen? So that if the change is going to happen on the user interface, it's not going to affect whatever we've done on the networking side, right? So let me generate another link. I will share it in the channel so we can migrate to it. So I'm just going to end this call now and generate the new one.